many layers are there between you and the CEO of your company? Do you have a standardized procedure for all of the processes? Does everyone in your company have a specialized role? There are many classic organization structures like the government, the military, a church, a grocery chain. How are they similar or different? Today we will talk about organization structure, the dimensions, the characteristics, some examples of the structures, and the impacts of the structure. Organization structure is a system of allocated tasks, roles, resources, and mechanisms of the decision, communication, and procedural processes to achieve organizational objectives. Primary dimensions of organization structures include specialization, standardization, formalization, centralization, and configuration. Following are the definition and operationalization of these dimensions. Specialization is concerned with the division of labor within the organization, the distribution of official duties among a number of positions. What does it mean to the organization? It means whether an activity is specialized and performed by someone with that function and no others. The activities include, for example, public relations, sales, transportation, legal, security, etc. For instance, in a media company, different hosts have different specialized topics for different shows, news, entertainment channels. The roles are specialized and they're not easily being replaced. In a hospital, everyone has their unique roles. Doctors, nurses, nutritionists, therapists, and even the nurse assistants are performing their specialized functions. The second dimension is standardization of procedure, and it would distinguish bureaucratic and traditional organizations from the charismatic ones. One example is whether the procedures of organizational processes is standardized. Assessment centers in government agencies are very much standardized. For administrative position promotions are using standardized questions and are being recorded. Trained assessors are then used to evaluate all the candidates on a set of rubrics. Multiple assessors' average scores are used. There's a mechanism to address the situation where the discrepancy is above a certain range. Formalization denotes the extent to which rules, procedures, instructions, and communications are written, whether all meeting memos were recorded and stored, whether the specialized records of carrying out inspection and maintenance of equipment. In a unionized state university, all the committee meetings has note taker and memos are then shared with related people afterwards. Independent photographers and musicians work on the contrary. They need a lot of freedom and less formalization in their work. Centralization has to do with the locus of authority to make decisions affecting the organization. This identifies the level in hierarchy where executive action can be authorized. Even this remains subjective to routine confirmation later, for example, a chairman or a committee. Centralized organizations concentrate power and decision-making authority at high levels of the organization. For instance, in a startup company, the owner is normally in charge of all the functions, rather than a group of stakeholders. Configuration is the shape of the role structure. The vertical span of control of the workflow superordinates hierarchy is measured by a count of number of job positions between the chief executive and the employees directly working on the output. Hierarchy can give too much power to a few people, increase risk of unethical behavior though. Lateral web can include the chief executive's span of control, the ratio of subordinates to the first workflow's superordinates, and the percentage of total employees that were direct output employees. Narrower span of control is more important for novel and complex tasks, but more costly. For instance, if you want to determine whether an organization is bureaucratic, the number of clerks can be an indicator. There are many characteristics that impact the organization structure. First is organization size. Typically, an organization needs more standardization and formalization when the size is bigger. Comparing Nike with a local independent shoemaker brand, Nike has more specialized labor for designing in terms of function and art, specialized marketing personnel, and more standardized and formalized procedure to make the communication within the organization more smooth. While the local independent shoemaker can have a lot more creative process, less concerned with standardization and formalization. Next is the organization strategy, which is another important factor to determine the organization structure. For instance, at Walmart, efficiency and low cost its main business strategy. Therefore, to decrease labor costs with standardization and high span of control would be a key, while at X Development, for instance, whose goal is to develop moonshot technology, care a lot less about the span of control and standardization. The dependence of an organization reflects its relationship with other organizations in its social environment, such as suppliers, customers, competitors, labor unions, contractors, and political and social organizations. Under the gig economy, the company's main labor force is the independent contractors, like the Uber drivers, the Airbnb hosts. Their structure of organization is completely different than a hotel chain like Hilton and Marriott. There are also cultural differences that determine the different organization structures. For instance, research showed that compared to American manufacturing plants, Japanese manufacturing plants are less specialized, higher hierarchies, greater formal centralization, and less defocal centralization. Another research on multinational banks in Hong Kong also demonstrated higher centralization, tall vertical hierarchies, and low horizontal differentiations. Digital workforce allows more flexibility in the cross-functional collaborations and fluidity in the organization structure. The digital platform is also transitioning a lot of functions in the organization, such as the HR departments and the customer services. Several factors of the external environment will impact the structure, like environmental variability, complexity, and environmental illiberality. For instance, the higher variability and uncertainty experienced, the more the prevailing structure of organization should be adaptive. COVID-19 pandemic is an example for high environmental variability. Many organizations in a variety of industries had to adapt to the new reality with the structural change. Burns and Stalker's distinguished organic and mechanistic organization. This is one of the first classification, and it is also the foundation for future classification. Organic organizations have less horizontal differentiation, high collaboration and participation, flexible tasks, less formal communications, and non-centralized decision-making system. While in mechanistic structure, the units are differentiated at horizontal level. The relations are exact and inflexible. Communication channel is formal and decision-making system is centralized. Mintzberg also proposed 5 organization structure, including simple structure, machine bureaucracy, professional bureaucracy, divisionalized form, and Adhocracy. They show different prime coordinating mechanism, different key part of organization, and different types of decentralization. Simple structure has a simple flex structure with one or a few senior managers. The organization is relatively unstructured and informal compared with other types of organizations. Startups and small business normally adopt this structure, like how Apple started in the garage. The machine bureaucracy has standardized and formalized work process with many routines and centralized procedures and decision-making. Jobs are clearly defined and the procedures are regularly analyzed for efficiency. Examples of machine bureaucracy are large, well-structured manufacturers, government and service agencies that provide routine tasks. The professional bureaucracy is also very bureaucratic. The key difference between the professional and machine bureaucracy is the professional bureaucracy structure rely on highly trained professionals. They have high degree of specialization and the decision-making is centralized. Universities, law firms, and accounting firms are great examples. The divisionalized form normally has a number of autonomous divisions that make their own decisions and have their own unique structures. One of the problems with this form is that there might be duplicate functions across different divisions. Typically, large and mature organizations that have a variety of brands, produce a wide range of services, adopt this type of structure. The Adhocracy, which essentially is the opposite of bureaucracy, may work well for organizations who require creativity and decentralized decisions, for instance, filmmaking. There are new terms of organization structures being proposed which are in different systems as Mintzberg's model and might have overlaps, such as team structure, where the barriers are eliminated, the decisions are not centralized, and the team takes the required decisions. No boundary organization, where the commanding chain is eliminated and no control. The team with high autonomy are replaced by centers. Virtual organization is a combination of geographically distributed, culturally diverse entities that are devoted to achieve a collective goal by pooling their core competency and resources. From decades ago, researchers already mentioned this organizational form is highly adaptive and well-suited to changing and uncertain environment. And many organizations were forced to change into this way since the pandemic. Organization structure has been studied to impact a lot of digital outcomes such as performance, attitude, behavior, procedure fairness, organizational culture, innovation, information cost, organizational learning, and values. So, how do you evaluate your organization structure on the dimensions, and what are the pros and cons of this organizational structure? Thank you for watching.